guys, I think that they fixed it. And by it, I mean replays. Either I've been getting incredibly lucky, or the variance has just disappeared, and you no longer get replays that bug out. I think this is the 6th or the 7th one in a row that I've had no errors with. And given how frequently that happened before, this is like basically akin to winning 7 or 8 coin flips in a row if in fact the chances of the replays bugging was 50-50, and I honestly think it was considerably higher than that, especially for replays that went a little bit long. You may notice my voice sounds a little bit different. I just got a new headset, so I'm recording with that instead of a microphone. I hope that it still sounds good. And I am also playing a new deck. Not actually new in terms of my design of it, but the first time I've used it online, at least with any intention of recording the videos. I built this as another budget deck, as a companion to the Draw New deck. I was quite surprised to find that Azami is not only budget, she's about 50 cents. So it made perfect sense to build a deck with her to see how well it performs. And unfortunately the deck is missing some really key components that make the Azami deck so incredibly strong, in my opinion, in regular EDH. Cards like Veldic and Shackles, Winter Orb, of course, the great accelerators, which of course benefit anybody, and Mana Drain is a big staple that you're missing out on. Certainly Treachery and the Planeswalkers are a big deal as well. I'd say of all the cards that you don't get to use in the budget format, though, the one that matters the most is Cyclonic Rift, at least as far as the Azami deck is concerned. You just, without it, you're so wanting for any type of sweeper effects. And the closest thing that this deck can employ is the card Aether Spouts, which unfortunately only answers creatures, and it only answers attacking creatures. So if you get a board state with a bunch of passive things sitting around, you don't really have any way of dealing with that. If the board gets gummed up by enchantments or artifacts, you don't really have an answer to that either. And because of all those reasons, I think that Azami, at least as a budget commander, is very solidly tier 2, even in the context of budget decks. I've also tested this deck in paper a fair amount against some of my test deck gauntlet decks, including I guess it's Naya, the red-green-white deck, which is just kind of by the numbers aggro beatdown with various enchantments like Moldervine Cloak and Elephant Guide, and a fair amount of burn spells. And it's one of those decks, at least the Naya deck, that if it gets all 3 of its mana by turn 3, it can be almost impossible to deal with because it has so many efficient creatures. Things like Woolly, Thoctor, and Watchwolf and stuff are just a total nightmare for any deck, much less an Azami deck. And of course, if you fall behind, even if you're able to stabilize, they often can just burn you to death. My other aggro test deck is completely mono red, basically a goblins deck with some other stuff thrown in. And of course, that's a nightmare matchup for Azami, although not as bad as you'd expect. And Dralno seems to actually still have the edge against either one of those decks, surprisingly, just because their mana bases are so unstable. At least the Naya deck's mana base is really unstable. It's very, very hard to play 3 colors in budget without access to fetch lands and dual lands. You have to play with a lot of come-into-play tap lands if you want to play with a lot of dual lands in the first place, which really slows the deck down and makes it not fast enough to compete with the speed that Dralnu has to get set up. You're often way behind, even though you're playing the aggro deck, which is a little strange. The red deck, of course, doesn't have that same problem, which probably makes it the best aggro deck in the format. Maybe mono black is good too. I haven't tested it yet, but certainly both of those decks seem like they're still at a deficit against Dralnu. And Azami, I think, is at a deficit to either one of those because it's mono blue. But that doesn't mean I can't try it out and have fun with it. And here is my first opponent, Tribal Kai, playing Teysa. Try not to look at that stuff on the right there. People were saying that there were spoilers appearing in the chat crawl, which is kind of obnoxious, actually, that you see the entire game's chat on the right side. But I looked here, and there's nothing that particularly spoils any of the results of this game. We're just sort of chattering about various things here. And he says, I like your YouTube content, by the way. Hopefully he likes this video, because it's going to be posted in a little while. Anyway, I won the die roll. This commander is very interesting. Quite problematic for control, honestly, a lot of the time, especially because so many of your ways of dealing with their creatures are through theft. And Teysa almost invariably plays with tons of sack outlets to take advantage of the commander and to get kind of a token machine running, which is how I've normally seen it played. And this guy's deck is no exception to that. Fortunately, I'm going first. I have a very good draw, I think, given I can I have things to do at the beginning of the game that aren't just mana. I can cast Martyr on turn 1, Apprentice on turn 2, and hopefully concentrate on turn 4, and maybe even faster if I draw a mana source that's not a land. I'm just going to play the Martyr. Saxon Arid Mesa. I'm thinking, alright, well, he could cast a lot of things that would be super problematic for me. Land tax, obviously Soul Ring, and probably Mother of Runes would be the nastiest thing. Unfortunately, he doesn't have any of those. I have so few outs against Mother of Runes, it's ridiculous, actually, in this deck. Beguiler. Alright, well, this is one of the cards that I play in my budget Azami deck that's not in the regular one. The Beguiler of Wills. And honestly, this thing is such a workhorse in here, it kind of makes me wonder why I don't use it in Azami. I think probably the reason is in regular Azami, you're not really worried too much about their creatures. It's really just a tempo game, and you just get so ahead with the Planeswalkers and the general that stealing their guys becomes unnecessary. And certainly when you're almost always just playing to a Rift Orb finale, you don't need to worry about just taking stuff. But since those methods of winning the game are not available for the budget version, the Beguiler can really, really do work. I've had this creature completely take over the game before, especially when you're able to protect it, and basically just crush someone single-handedly. Pretty powerful creature, even if it's a 1/1 for 5. Plus it's a wizard, of course. I'm just going to play the Apprentice. Alright, 2 mana. Bitterblossom. Alright, well, speaking of tokens, there's one right there, and this thing obviously has excellent synergy with Teysa, and it is a problem for this deck too, because I don't have Cyclonic Rift to clean up the fairies. And we're planning on playing a long game, so grinding out a long game against Bitterblossom can be very problematic. Obviously, I have no way to punish him for life loss. We're just going to attack here with the intention of drawing a card. And if he does play his commander, I'm definitely going to counter it with Martyr. One of the ways you can deal with Teysa is you just make it cost too much mana for them to deal with, and they can never really play it in a convenient way. Verdant Catacombs into Scrubland. Twilight Drover. Wow. Well, this guy is massive synergy with the Teysa deck. It's unbelievable how strong this creature is. And as you can see, it makes it... And it's not even killing the token, so if I bounce the fairies, it still triggers this guy. And once this guy starts to roll, you can't really stop it, short of stealing it. And without Cyclonic Rift, Twilight Drover could single-handedly kill me. So the goal of this game is going to be make sure that Twilight Drover never, ever, ever gets bigger than 1/1. It's going to be a tough goal to achieve, but that's going to be the way that we're going to win. And as powerful as it is, I decide that it's not so threatening right now, especially because I do need to keep Teysa out of play, that I need to draw a card right now. Alright, Island. I could have countered with Martyr, I guess, untapped and played Concentrate. That would have gotten me back up to 7, but I wouldn't have been able to deal with the Teysa, which I'm not really a fan of. I really need to make sure that that thing just stays out of play as long as possible and costs a great deal of mana when it comes into play. Right now, he doesn't really have any good way of killing off tokens, so this thing is not too threatening. And I've got a blocker for it in the form of a 1/2. Alright, so there's Teysa. Alright, obviously we are going to counter that, even though it means I can't draw a card and I have to sack a wizard, but it's not negotiable. And I gotta just hope he doesn't have a 5th mana, or I draw into another counterspell. Obviously, the backup plan, of course, is to just play Azami. Obviously, I mean, I'd like to play the Beguiler here, but in my opinion, that's too dangerous. This creature is too valuable for the long game, and I'm going to have 6 mana next turn, 7 mana on the following turn. So if I play Azami, I get to draw 2, and even if he kills Azami right away, I can replay it on the following turn and draw 2 more. And I think that that's better than playing Beguiler, which is my endgame right now. I'm just going to play Azami here. One thing I really like about the Azami deck, you see how flooded I am? I've only drawn, what is this, 5, 6, 7, 8. 8 sources of mana, and only 4 real spells. But because the commander is so powerful, you just don't really mind. Magus of the Future, awesome. Very powerful, but I don't see any opportunity to play this in the near future. It's just another big, expensive 5 when we really need counterspells. Alright, I see him play a 5th land. I'm thinking, well, alright, well, he's going to be able to get Teysa out. Instead, he taps 5, and yep, there's Teysa. Okay, so we were unable to keep her out of play, even though I drew the exclude just a turn too late. So now the object of the game is keep him from getting another white creature into play, and also keep him from sacking tokens, because the synergy going on right here is ridiculous. If he's able to, if just one of these things leaves play, he's going to get 2 tokens on this. He can sack 2 of those, or I mean, he can remove counters to get 2 of them, sack another thing, start using Teysa as a terror on a stick while pumping up the Twilight Drover even further. Thought Courier. Okay, we're going to draw a card here. Draw Capsize. Capsize is really interesting. It's certainly an answer to Bitterblossom in the long term, but that casting cost is so prohibitive. I can't imagine buying it back at any point in the future here. So I gave some thought to just playing the Thought Courier and decided that I'd rather keep the flexibility around of Capsize with buyback. Potentially, if he taps out, it might give me an opportunity to do that, to bounce either the Teysa or the Bitterblossom and keep the Capsize. And to me, that was worth more than just playing the Thought Courier. Though playing Thought Courier and being able to exclude was still pretty nice too, especially because the Courier would draw a card. Very tenuous position here. If he's able to just develop a little bit more interaction with these creatures right here, I could just be seeing a game state I can never recover from. He plays Shriekmaw. Very glad to have exclude here. So we're going to counter that. And obviously I have the backup plan of using Jushi Apprentice to draw. Alright, into the Royal draw, and that's really, really timely. So he plays Ranger of Eos. And even though him sacking this thing, I'm sorry, so yeah, once this resolves, even him sacking all 3 of his white creatures to kill Azami, that would be a pretty good play here. But I'm fully intending to use Into the Royal right now anyway, so I'm not going to even give him that option. I really don't want to have to recast the Azami under this much pressure from Bitterblossom and all these fairies, so I'm going to just bounce this right now, just to prevent him from even giving me the, or making me recast Azami for 7. So that thing comes out, and I fully expect him to get something like Mother of Runes and a sack outlet, something probably like Carrion Feeder, which is almost always in this deck, and he gets Carrion Feeder and Viscera Seer. 2 sack outlets, and obviously that's all that he's missing from this puzzle right now. If he gets a single sack outlet on the board, then all hell's going to break loose, because Twilight Drover is going to get enormous. I mean, obviously I still have the Capsize as a backup against it, but it's going to become very, very difficult to work around it. Aha, you cannot attack with your Twilight Drover. I have a 1-2 in play. End of turn, draw Brainstorm. Okay. Draw Dismiss off the draw step. Okay, well that's super, super handy. That'll keep at least one of those little sack guys out of play. And he does only have 1 black mana source. So my hope on the next turn is that he plays his Teysa, which I can counterspell with the Dismiss. And then he, hopefully I just draw some way. Okay, yeah, so I'm going to Brainstorm, and awesome, there's Forbid. Okay, so I've got enough mana here to both Dismiss and Forbid. And given that he only has 2 black sources, if I can keep both Teysa and the one of the sack outlets out of play and he doesn't draw another swamp, then I can still keep this little guy at 1-1, which is, again, the long-term game plan. So we're just going to play a land there. I think about this for a long time, testing different ideas about whether or not I want to Capsize now, if I can afford to play Beguiler. But I don't have enough mana to play Beguiler and protect it as much as I would really like to play it right now. And I could play Thought Courier to draw cards, but again, I feel like the most important thing right now is to be able to counter twice here. And it's just one of those crossroads where you have to make a decision about whether or not you're going to develop more or counter multiple times. And I ultimately decide that even though it means I'm going to have to discard, it's more important for me to just end the turn here. I don't need to concentrate anyway, given that I'm basically concentrating every turn off my 2 wizards. So hopefully he does not have more mana. But this pressure is starting to get a little bit ugly. Right now I'm going to be taking 7 this turn, potentially 8 the next turn, 9 the next turn, really running out of time. And again, I have no long-term solution to Bitterblossom at all, except potentially for his guy in a roundabout way. Alright, so he's playing Teysa, which is what I expected. We're going to dismiss that. Draw an island that I put back. Alright, Carrion Feeder. That cannot resolve. Absolutely cannot resolve under any situation. So even though it means I'm forbidding with buyback on a 1-1 that he got for free, it's still a good deal. He plays Bojuka Bog. Fortunately, that's a black source that comes into play tapped, so he can't play the Viscera Seer. He eats my graveyard, which, since I'm not playing Draw New, isn't a big deal. And he thinks about attacking with Twilight Drover and opts out again. So I'm going to take 7. End of turn, draw 2 to repair the damage from the Forbid. Legacy's Allure. Awesome. So glad I kept this guy at 1/1. Alright, we only need... Oh, and a counterspell off the top 2. That is so perfect. So now it's time. I'm going to play Beguiler of Wills. And I'm going to use 2 more mana to play Legacy's Allure. So this is going to answer multiple threats. If I can... Provided we get to the next turn and Twilight Drover is still a 1/1, I can steal it. Beguiler to steal one of his fairies. Now I've got the engine instead of him. Another fairy rogue. We just got to keep that Viscera Seer out of play. This cards like this and this are the exact reason why it was so paramount that I kept the sack outlets out of the game, because Hero of Bladehold. We will be borrowing this guy in a little while. Viscera Seer. Alright. Counterspell. So glad I drew that, because it allowed me to play both these things on the same turn. And he got so much value out of Ranger of Eos. It's dealt 9 damage to me and gotten Forbid food and counterspell out of my hand. Pretty disgusting. Bash. Down to 18. Alright, we still have time here. End of turn, draw Swan Song. That's super handy. And drawing Swan Song actually is really interesting too, because now I have a much better answer for Bitterblossom than forbidding it with buyback. Alright, upkeep. Put a counter on there. Gonna borrow that guy because he blocks Ranger of Eos. We're gonna borrow that guy because he's utterly insane. I'm playing Trinket Mage here. I didn't really give too much thought to what I was going to steal here. I probably should have taken... Honestly, I probably should have taken Chalice, because with Capsize with buyback, potentially getting an extra 3 or 4 mana into play could make a really big difference towards cleaning up this pile of 1/1 fairies. But I decided I'm going to take Pithing Needle because it's an answer to Teysa. And not having to worry about his general at all is pretty nice luxury. Alright, we're suddenly starting to turn this game around. It's looking really good now, even though I'm at 18. Alright, so he plays land tax. Obviously, we don't care about that. Tapping a bunch more mana. 6 mana. Wow. Well, if ever a card was designed to be forbid with buyback, it's that thing. So we're going to draw some food here. Magus of the Ring. Well, it would have been a lot better when I had a graveyard with 9 spells in it, but still solid. Drawing again. Draw again. Stoic Rebuttal. Well, I'd much rather Stoic Rebuttal that thing than spend forbid mana, so we're going to just do that. Thinks about attacking and goes, oh wait, there's a 3/4 out there. I'm just going to smash for 6. Alright, down to 12. The clock is still ticking. And now I realize this is the moment, because I've drawn the Swan Song. It's time, even though I'm not, I would love to be able to buy this back, this is the moment to get rid of the Bitterblossom. Because if I can keep the number of fairies constant and deal with them one at a time, then I can probably still survive it, barring anything else crazy happening. I'll get hit for a bunch, but obviously if he's attacking me with multiple fairies a turn, it gets much worse. Or I should say a growing number of fairies every single turn. Dissolve. Plenty of islands now. Alright, we're going to borrow an untapped fairy. Hee. And I think for a long time here, and decide to just cast Thought Courier. There's no real reason to play the Disciple of the Ring as far as I'm concerned. I mean, I guess I could just start drawing extra cards off of it, eating up the graveyard. But the real concern is just being able to counterspell something that could devastate me, and obviously dealing with the Flying Armada. And we have plans for that. So we're just going to say done. Just going to land tax. Now all coming in. So I block here, and he makes this kind of cool play with the Drover counters on the stack. He casts Anguish Unmaking, targeting the Felwar Stone. He actually makes a comment here about. Let me scroll down a little bit. Who would have thought that Felwar Stone would be my unmaking or undoing? Yeah, it's true, because given the old commander rules, I wouldn't be able to make white mana out of this, but because of the new ones, well, we are going to be dissolving an Anguished Unmaking on my 11th mana source because it happens to make white. And this is another source of white, so I'm going to leave that on top since cards are plentiful right now. We're not in a crisis card drawing situation. And he plays the Bitterblossom again, and we've got that handy swan song for it, especially given that I can just steal the 2/2, which is better than one of the 1/1s. So we've solved the Bitterblossom problem at 7, and he casts Phyrexian Altar. Another sack outlet, though not a particularly great one. But it does allow him to make more mana, so we're going to draw in response to see what we get. I fully intend to forbid this if I need to, just because, again, you can't let the Teysa decks have sack outlets no matter what. Draw a card, Azure Mage, and Last Wizard. Perfect. Miscalculation. And conveniently, I still have 3 mana available as well. End of turn. Use the Drover. I have 2 1/1 spirits now. Draw the Spouts. A little late, but we can still have some fun with it. I'm going to steal that bird. Now it's time for Hero Bladehold to do some work. And this, I'm actually attacking with this not only because I, of course, want the creatures and want to start dealing some damage, but also because I want to induce a full attack from all of his guys now that I have Aether Spouts. Playing Pithing Needle preemptively against Teysa, since I've got 7 cards and plenty of mana. He's going to land tax again. He spends 7 mana on Emeria Shepherd. I didn't even bother to read what it does, since we're planning on just tapping all of our relevant blockers, just about all of the ones that are wizards, to forbid with buyback again. Throw away some islands. And now it looks like the coast might be a little bit clearer for an attack with Ranger of Eos. And he plays Bloodghast before attacking as well, and I'm below 10. Alright, bring him on. Oh man, so brutal. Yeah. Well, I mean, obviously, I think that the outcome of this game was already inevitable, but 5 pumps on my Twilight Drover are going to speed things up quite a bit. And he's all done. End of turn. Make some more birds. Play a land. And now Hero Bladehold is going to do his dirty work on all of these extra creatures. Man. And that's game. Pretty cool game, I felt. Definitely neat to see both of these decks kind of doing their thing, and you got a pretty good sense of what's in the Azami deck. Anyone who's interested in a deck list is more than welcome to email me about it. And I'd say this deck is less tuned than Dralnu. There are probably a few cards in the format that I'm missing that would fit pretty well into it, but I did have to swap out quite a few things from the regular Azami deck to start out with. And I've been pretty happy with how well it's performed. Like I said at the beginning, it's not a Tier 1 deck by any measure because it's mono blue in a format that can be really fast and aggressive, and you just lack some of the tools that you need to deal with certain permanent types. But that said, it's pretty fun, and I don't know, you get to win games with things like Beguiler or Wells. More games to come. See you guys soon.